The darkness smells like blood and cordite. Commander Alara Thorne's hands are slick with it. Red. Too much red. The kind that doesn't wash off, not really, not ever. Kandahar. 8 months ago. A doorway that should have been safe. Lieutenant Garrett Sullivan lies in her arms, 29 years old and dying fast. The muzzle flash that killed him came from a corner the intelligence report swore was empty. 3 hostiles the Marines had promised. Minimal security, clean extraction. They'd been catastrophically wrong. Garrett's eyes find hers. Blue eyes, the kind that crinkle when he smiles, except he's not smiling now. His lips move. She leans closer, her ear to his mouth, and his last words are a whisper that cuts deeper than any blade. Tell Sophie, I tried. His daughter. 3 years old, blonde pigtails and gap-toothed grin. A little girl who will grow up asking why Daddy never came home. Alara's scream tears through the compound. Primal. Broken. The sound of something inside her shattering into pieces that will never fit together quite right again. She returns fire on pure instinct. 12 hostiles pour from positions that shouldn't exist. The compound is a fortress, not the light target the intelligence promised. Owen Briggs dies in the courtyard, his body jerking as rounds punch through Kevlar like it's tissue paper. Nora Quinn bleeds out from shrapnel, her hand reaching for Alara's falling short by inches that might as well be miles. 3 bodies, 3 flag-draped coffins, 3 families destroyed, all because someone was too confident to verify, too arrogant to question, too proud to admit they might be wrong. The after-action report blamed no one specifically. Fog of war, imperfect intelligence, acceptable losses. Alara stared at those words until they burned into her retinas. Acceptable losses. As if Garrett Sullivan was acceptable. As if his daughter growing up without a father was just the cost of doing business. The intelligence had come from Marine Force Recon, Bravo Company, a unit so certain of their assessment they'd dismissed contradictory reports from local sources. Their assumptions had killed her friends. Now Alara was going to make sure it never happened again. Cut to black. Title card 8 months later. Camp Lejeune. North Carolina. The sun sets over Camp Lejeune like a wound bleeding out across the horizon. Alara sits in her car outside the main gate, engine idling, studying the file in her lap. The tab reads, Bravo Company, Force Recon, Evaluation Priority Critical. Inside the folder, 42 faces stare back at her. 42 Marines who have no idea their careers hang by a thread. 42 men who think they're invincible, untouchable, above consequence. She knows better. Her fingers trace the service photo of Staff Sergeant Declan Cross, 36 years old. Square jaw, hard eyes. The kind of face that's seen combat and come back changed. Bronze Star from his Kandahar deployment. Commendations that suggest competence. But recent performance reviews hint at something darker. Decline. Substance issues. The notation that made General Webb's blood boil. Dismissed multiple harassment complaints without investigation. Declan Cross had signed off on the Kandahar intelligence. His signature, bold and confident, sits at the bottom of the report that killed her friends. He'd been so sure. 95% confidence. 3 hostiles, minimal security. He'd been wrong, and 3 people died because of it. Alara closes the folder and stares at her reflection in the rearview mirror. 25 years old. Youngest woman ever to command a SEAL team. Dark hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. Eyes that have seen too much death for someone barely old enough to rent a car. She reaches for her collar and carefully removes her commander's insignia, tucking the pins into the glove compartment. Next, her watch, her academy ring, anything that might identify her rank or affiliation. She changes in the car, pulling on an olive green t-shirt and camouflage cargo pants. Civilian contractor, maybe. Lost girlfriend, looking for her Marine boyfriend. Nobody important. That's the point. General Malcolm Webb had given her the mission 3 weeks ago, sliding the folder across his desk with the weight of a man who'd run out of better options. Evaluate Marine Force Recon Bravo Company, he'd said. Determine if their culture can be rehabilitated or if the unit needs to be dissolved entirely. Why me? Because you won't pull punches. Because you understand what happens when arrogance replaces competence. Webb's eyes had held hers gray and grave. And because what happened in Kandahar happened because of people exactly like the ones in that unit. This is your chance to make sure it doesn't happen again. She'd taken the folder without hesitation. Now she's walking into the lion's den, and the lions have no idea she's anything but prey. The gate guard barely glances at her visitor credentials. She's just another civilian on a base full of them. Contractors, dependents, delivery drivers. Invisible. Forgettable. Perfect. The walk to mess hall, Echo, takes 12 minutes. Alara uses every second to observe. Marines everywhere, their voices carrying on the evening air. Laughter with edges sharp enough to cut. Posturing. Territorial displays. The kind of energy that fills a space when young men with too much testosterone and too little supervision gather in one place. She passes a group of 4 Marines smoking outside the barracks. They look her up and down with the kind of appraisal that makes her skin crawl, but she keeps her face neutral. One of them, a corporal with a shaved head and knuckles scarred from too many fights, makes a comment she pretends not to hear. His friends laugh. Alara makes a mental note. Corporal Vaughn Ashford, 6'4", 240 pounds, muscles built for intimidation rather than function. Washed out of Ranger School twice, not because he lacked physical capability, but because he couldn't follow orders from anyone he didn't respect. The kind of soldier who mistakes cruelty for strength. She keeps walking. Mess Hall Echo sits at the edge of the company area, a squat building that smells like industrial cleaner and old grease. Through the window, she can see them. 42 Marines filling the space like an occupying army. Voices bounce off walls. Laughter comes in aggressive bursts. Body language screams ownership of every square inch. Alara pauses at the door, one hand on the handle, and takes a breath. This is it. The moment she steps from observer to participant. The moment the experiment begins. She pulls the door open and walks inside. The effect isn't immediate. A few heads turn casual glances that slide off her like water. She's not interesting yet. Just another woman in the wrong place, probably lost, definitely not important. Alara finds an empty table in the corner, as far from the main group as possible, and sits down. She pulls out a small notebook, the kind reporters use, and a pen. Opens to a blank page. Starts writing. 1847 hours. Mess Hall Echo. 42 subjects present. Immediate observation, hierarchical structure visible in seating arrangement. Alpha male at center table, subordinates arranged by proximity to power. At the center table, Staff Sergeant Declan Cross holds court. He's telling a war story, his hands animated, his voice carrying across the room. The Marines around him hang on every word like disciples receiving gospel. They laugh when he laughs. Fall silent when his tone shifts. It's a performance and everyone knows their role. Alara studies him with clinical detachment. His hands shake slightly when he lifts his coffee cup. Bloodshot eyes. A joke that lands harder than it should, forced rather than natural. A man trying too hard to maintain a position he feels slipping away. Beside him, Corporal Vaughn Ashford sits like a coiled weapon. He doesn't talk much, but when someone speaks out of turn or laughs at the wrong moment, his gaze snaps to them with predatory focus. The enforcer, the physical manifestation of Declan's authority. The dynamic is textbook toxic leadership. Charismatic alpha past his prime, using a violent subordinate to maintain control through fear. It's a structure that works until it doesn't, and when it collapses, people get hurt. Alara writes it all down. 3 minutes pass before the first Marine notices her. A young lance corporal, maybe 22, with acne scars and the nervous energy of someone still trying to prove themselves. He nudges the guy next to him, points in her direction. They exchange words she can't hear. The lance corporal stands and walks over, his stride somewhere between curious and confrontational. Hey, you. He stops at her table, arms crossed. This mess hall is for Bravo Company. You authorized to be here. Alara looks up slowly, as if his interruption is only mildly interesting. I'm waiting for someone. Who? That's not your concern. His face flushes, not used to being dismissed. Look, lady, I don't know who you think you're waiting for, but civilians aren't supposed to be in here without an escort. I'll be fine. I'm gonna need you to leave. Alara meets his eyes, holds them for a 3 count, then returns to her notebook without another word. The dismissal is absolute. The lance corporal stands there, confused and irritated, unsure what to do with a woman who won't comply with his authority. Finally, he turns and walks back to his table, muttering to his friends. They all look her way now. 42 sets of eyes, ranging from confused to annoyed to vaguely amused. Alara keeps writing. Subject notation. Low-ranking member attempts to assert dominance. When met with non-compliance, retreats rather than escalates. Suggests authority structure requires backup to enforce. 7 minutes later, the real test arrives. Vaughn Ashford rises from the center table with the slow, deliberate movement of a predator who's spotted prey. He's even bigger up close, his shadow falling across Alara's table like a threat made physical. The mess hall quiets. Everyone watches. This is entertainment now. Excuse me, sweetheart. His voice carries loud enough for the whole room to hear. Here, think you're in the wrong place. Alara doesn't look up from her notebook. I don't think so. This is a Marine mess hall. You're not a Marine. Observation noted. Vaughn's jaw tightens. He's not used to being ignored, not used to women who don't flinch when he looms over them. His hands grip the edge of her table and he leans forward, bringing his face closer to hers. I asked you a question. No, you made a statement. There's a difference. A few Marines nearby stop eating, sensing the shift from curious to potentially violent. This is what happens in Bravo Company. Small challenges escalate into dominance displays. And if you don't have a dick and 200 pounds of muscle, you lose. Okay, smartass, let me make this clear. Vaughn plants both hands on her table and leans down until his face is inches from hers. You don't belong here. Whatever you're doing, do it somewhere else. Alara finally looks up, meets his eyes without a trace of fear. I'll leave when I'm finished. You'll leave when I tell you to leave. No, I won't. The standoff lasts 3 seconds. To Vaughn, it probably feels like an eternity. His entire identity is built on intimidation, on making people smaller than him feel even smaller. But this woman isn't shrinking. She's looking at him like he's a specimen under glass, mildly interesting, but ultimately insignificant. He straightens up, confused by her complete lack of fear. Fine, stay, but don't blame me when someone decides you need an attitude adjustment. He walks away, returning to Declan's table. Alara watches him go, then makes a note in her book. Subject Ashford Vibe aggressive territorial, uses physical intimidation as primary interaction method. Responds poorly to noncompliance. Likely escalation pattern if dominance not established. 15 minutes pass. The mess hall returns to its normal chaos. Voices rise and fall. Trays clatter. Someone drops a fork and it rings against tile like a small bell. Alara observes everything. Who speaks and who listens. Who laughs at whose jokes. Who defers and who dominates. The invisible architecture of power that determines who matters and who doesn't. She notices one Marine who doesn't quite fit the pattern. Private First Class Rowan Hayes, sitting at the edge of Declan's table, but clearly not part of the inner circle. 22 years old, with the kind of face that still holds on to boyhood. He eats quietly, doesn't participate in the conversation, flinches slightly whenever Vaughn's voice gets too loud. A recruit who hasn't been fully indoctrinated yet. Or someone who has serious doubts about the culture he's joined. Either way, a potential ally. Alara makes a note. At 19:23 hours, Declan notices her. He says something to Vaughn, gestures toward her corner table. Vaughn shrugs, says something back. Declan's eyes narrow. There's something about her presence that bothers him. Something about the way she sits, the way she observes, the way she doesn't seem afraid. Harrison, go find out what she's writing. Vaughn grins. With pleasure, Sarge. He crosses the mess hall again, this time with slower, more deliberate steps. Every Marine in the room watches. This is the main event now, the moment when the outsider gets put in her place. Alara sees him coming. She doesn't close her notebook, doesn't try to hide what she's writing. Let him look. What you writing there, sweetheart? Notes. Notes about what? Things I've observed. Vaughn reaches down and grabs the notebook before she can react. His massive hand closes around it and yanks it away, his grin widening as he holds it up like a trophy. Let's see what's so important. He flips it open and starts reading aloud. Corporal Vaughn Ashford, 27 years old, 2 failed attempts at Ranger School. His grin falters. 17 informal complaints for aggressive behavior, none of which resulted in formal discipline because, his voice drops, because your sergeant protects you. The mess hall goes dead silent. Vaughn stares at the notebook, then at Alara, his face cycling through confusion, anger, fear. How the hell do you know that? Alara's voice is ice. I know a lot of things, Corporal. Now give me my notebook. I don't know who you think you are, but you need to learn some respect. Respect is earned, Corporal, not demanded. That's when Vaughn makes his decision. The decision that will define the rest of his career. The decision he'll replay in his mind 1,000 times, wondering what would have happened if he'd made a different choice. He reaches out and grabs Alara's ponytail. The massive hand closes around her dark hair and yanks backward hard enough that her neck snaps back at a painful angle, hard enough that her chair scrapes against the floor, hard enough that every person in that room knows exactly what kind of man Vaughn Ashford is. I think you need a lesson in manners, sweetheart. 42 Marines watch. Some look uncomfortable. Most look entertained. Not one of them speaks up. Not one of them says stop. Not one of them stands between a violent man and a woman half his size. Alara doesn't cry out, doesn't struggle, doesn't show any sign of pain. She simply reaches into her pocket with her free hand and pulls out her phone, points it at Vaughn's face, takes a photo of the flash bright in his eyes. Documented, she says calmly. Vaughn's hand tightens in her hair. You threatening me, little girl? You know who I am. Corporal Vaughn Ashford, 2 failed attempts at Ranger School, 17 informal complaints for aggressive behavior, none of which resulted in formal discipline because your sergeant protects you. Divorced no kids drinks too much on weekends. Shall I continue? The laughter dies in Vaughn's throat. How the hell do you know that? I know a lot of things, Corporal. Now give me my notebook. I don't know who you think you are. Let her go, Ashford. Declan Cross has risen from his table and crossed the room. He stops 3 feet away, studying Alara with the calculated interest of a predator assessing prey. Problem, Corporal. No problem, Sarge. Just teaching this civilian some manners. She give you trouble. She's got a smart mouth, thinks she knows things about us. Declan looks down at Alara, his bloodshot eyes taking in every detail. Her calm expression, her steady breathing, the complete absence of fear. That's so. What kind of things? Alara's voice doesn't waver despite the hand twisted in her hair. Staff Sergeant Declan Cross, 36 years old, former All-State linebacker, 2 tours in Afghanistan, Bronze Star with Valor. But your performance reviews have been declining for 18 months. Your commanding officer submitted a concerns memo last quarter, and you've been drinking more than you should. Declan's face goes pale, then red with fury. Who the hell are you? Someone you should have treated with respect. Ashford let her go. But Sarge, I said let her go. Vaughn releases her hair, confusion and anger warring on his face. Alara calmly reaches up and smooths her ponytail back into place, her movements deliberate and unhurried. Thank you. Don't thank me. Declan steps closer, using his size to intimidate. It doesn't work. I want answers. Who are you? Why are you here? And how do you know things that are supposed to be classified? Alara stands slowly. She's shorter than both men, but somehow she seems to take up more space than either of them. The air around her hums with coiled tension. My name is Alara. I'm here to observe. And the things I know, she smiles without warmth. You'd be amazed what's available to someone with the right clearance. Right clearance for what? That's need to know, Sergeant. And right now, you don't need to know. Declan's hands are shaking now, and not just from the tremor she'd noticed earlier. He's losing control of a situation he should dominate, and he has no idea why. Listen to me carefully. He steps closer, voice dropping to something dangerous. I don't know what game you're playing, but this is my unit, my mess hall, my Marines. You don't walk in here and start making notes and dropping classified information like you own the place. I'm not trying to own anything, Sergeant. I'm just doing my job. What job? Alara's smile widens slightly. Observation. Observing what? Everything. The tension in the mess hall is thick enough to cut. 42 Marines watch their sergeant face off against a civilian woman who shows no fear whatsoever. It's unprecedented. Impossible. The natural order of things turned on its head. Declan's hands shake harder. I want you out of my mess hall, now. I'll leave when I'm finished. You'll leave when I tell you to leave. No, Sergeant, I won't. Declan reaches for her arm, his fingers closing around her bicep, and that's when everything changes. The mess hall doors bang open with enough force to make everyone jump. A man in dress blues walks in with the bearing of someone who expects immediate obedience. 3 stars gleam on his shoulders, silver hair swept back from a weathered face that's seen more combat than most of these Marines could imagine. General Malcolm Webb. His voice could command attention from a hurricane. Attention on deck. Every Marine in the room snaps to their feet. Chairs scrape, boots crash together, spines straighten into perfect vertical lines. The sound of 42 men moving as one. Alara remains seated. Webb walks directly to where Declan stands, frozen, his hand still on Alara's arm. The general stops 3 feet away. His eyes sweep the scene with the cold efficiency of a man cataloging evidence. Declan's aggressive stance, Vaughn's confused expression, Alara's calm demeanor. Staff Sergeant Cross, care to explain why you're manhandling a superior officer? Declan's face goes white. His hand drops from Alara's arm like it's been burned. Sir, Commander Alara Thorne, SEAL Team 7, your new evaluator. Webb's voice could freeze lava. And based on what I just witnessed, your worst nightmare. The silence that follows is absolute. Every Marine in the room stares at Alara with expressions ranging from shock to horror to dawning realization. The woman they threatened, the woman whose hair Vaughn grabbed, the woman Declan tried to physically remove. A SEAL team commander, one of the most elite special operators in the United States military. And now she holds their careers in her hands. Elara stands slowly. When she speaks, her voice carries to every corner of the room with the kind of authority that doesn't need volume. I've been observing your unit for 47 minutes. In that time, I've witnessed harassment, intimidation, attempted assault, and a complete breakdown of professional conduct. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out her commander's insignia, buttons them onto her collar with deliberate precision. The twin silver bars catch the fluorescent light. She looks at Vaughn. You grabbed my hair because you thought I was weak, because you saw a woman and assumed victim. She looks at Declan. You attempted to physically remove me because you couldn't stand someone challenging your authority even for a moment. She looks at the rest of the Marines, her eyes moving from face to face. And none of you did anything. You watched your fellow Marines assault a civilian, and not one of you spoke up. Her voice hardens. 8 months ago, SEAL Team 7 conducted a joint operation based on intelligence provided by Marine Force Recon. The intel was wrong, catastrophically wrong. 3 of my operators died, 3 of my friends, 3 Americans who trusted that the Marines providing our intelligence had done their jobs properly. The words land like artillery shells. They hadn't, they assumed, they dismissed contradictory information because it came from sources they deemed unreliable. They were so confident in their superiority that they never bothered to verify. She holds up her notebook. That's why I'm here. To determine if this unit's culture can be fixed or if it needs to be eliminated entirely. Based on what I've seen so far, she pauses, letting the weight of her words settle on every Marine in the room. You're not making a strong case for survival. Declan finds his voice. Commander, we didn't know. That's exactly the problem, Sergeant. You didn't know. You assumed. You saw a woman in civilian clothes and you assumed she was nobody. You assumed you could treat her however you wanted without consequences. You assumed wrong. If we had known who you were, Alara's laugh is bitter, you would have treated me with respect. That's not respect, Sergeant. That's self-preservation. Respect means treating everyone with dignity, regardless of whether they can hurt your career. She turns to General Webb. Sir, I have enough documentation to recommend immediate dissolution of this unit. The culture here is toxic. The leadership is compromised. The enlisted personnel have been conditioned to accept and participate in behavior that violates every principle of military conduct. Webb nods slowly. That's your assessment. Based on 47 minutes of observation, yes. Seems fast. The evidence was overwhelming. Webb looks at Declan and Vaughn at the 40 Marines standing at rigid attention with terror in their eyes. Staff Sergeant Cross, you have something to say. Declan swallows hard. His earlier confidence has evaporated completely, replaced by the desperate calculation of a man watching his career collapse in real time. General, sir, with respect, we made assumptions. Bad ones. But this unit has served with distinction. Past performance doesn't excuse present behavior, Sergeant. I know, sir, I know. Declan's voice cracks. But if the commander would give us a chance to demonstrate that we can change. Can you? Alara's voice cuts through. Can you actually change, Sergeant? Or will you just learn to hide your behavior better when someone's watching? We. Declan's words die. That's what I thought. Alara turns toward the door. The message is clear. She's done here. The evaluation is over. The verdict is guilty. Commander? The voice comes from the back of the room. Quiet, young, uncertain. Private First Class Rowan Hayes. Alara stops. Yes. Rowan steps forward, his body language screaming discomfort. Every Marine in the room stares at him like he's lost his mind. You don't contradict a commander. You don't speak out of turn. You definitely don't challenge a decision that's already been made. But Rowan does it anyway. Permission to speak freely, ma'am. Granted. I've been in this unit for 4 months. And you're right. Everything you said, it's true. The harassment, the intimidation, the culture that says anyone different is a target. His voice steadies as he speaks, growing stronger. But not everyone here agrees with it. Some of us, we just didn't know how to fight it. We didn't have any support. Didn't have anyone who would listen. He looks at Declan, then at Vaughn. What they did to you tonight was wrong. What they've done to others was wrong. But if you shut down this unit, the Marines who actually want to do the right thing get punished along with the ones who don't. Alara studies him for a long moment. What's your name? Private Hayes, ma'am. Rowan Hayes. How old are you, Hayes? At 22, ma'am. You know you just publicly challenged your senior NCOs. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Despite everything, Rowan almost smiles. Ma'am, I think they're often the same thing. Ilara's expression softens just barely. She turns back to General Webb. Sir, I'd like to modify my recommendation. Webb raises an eyebrow. I'm listening. 48-hour evaluation extension. Practical assessment rather than observation only. She looks at Declan. I'll give them a chance to demonstrate capability. If they can capture me in a controlled exercise, the unit survives. If they can't, she lets the implication hang in the air. Webb's other eyebrow joins the first. You're proposing a one-woman exercise against 42 Marines. I'm proposing an opportunity for this unit to prove they're more than what I witnessed tonight. Declan steps forward. Commander, we accept. Whatever parameters you set, we'll meet them. You don't even know what I'm proposing, Sergeant. Doesn't matter. You're giving us a chance we don't deserve. We'll take it. Alara's eyes are cold. Assignment, understand something. This isn't mercy. This is validation. If you fail, I'll have proof that this unit is beyond rehabilitation. If you succeed, you'll have proven you're capable of growth. And if we succeed, then we start the real work. But that's a conversation for another time. Alara checks her watch. The exercise begins at 600 tomorrow. Your objective is to locate and capture me within 48 hours. Rules of engagement will be provided at 0500. She walks toward the door, then stops. Oh, and Sergeant Cross. Yes, ma'am. The intelligence for this exercise will include some contradictory information. I'd recommend you verify before you assume. She leaves without another word. General Webb remains for a moment, his eyes sweeping the room with the weight of judgment. Gentlemen, I've known Commander Thorne for 3 years. I've seen what she can do. If I were you, I'd spend tonight praying and planning. He pauses at the door. Dismissed. He follows Alara out, leaving 42 Marines standing in stunned silence. Declan finally speaks. Ashford Blake Hayes, my office. Now. As they file out, Rowan remains behind for just a moment. He looks at the door where Alara disappeared, and for the first time since joining this unit, he feels something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. Declan Cross's office feels smaller than usual, with 4 men crammed inside, their collective tension filling every corner like a physical presence. The walls are covered with plaques and photos from better days. Afghanistan deployment photos. Commendation ceremonies. A younger Declan shaking hands with generals, his eyes clear, his smile genuine. That man is gone. Vaughn Ashford slams his fist against the wall hard enough to leave a dent in the drywall. This is complete bullshit. Watch your mouth. Declan's voice is razor sharp despite the tremor in his hands. We're already in deep enough. She's one woman, Sarge, one against 42 of us. How hard can this be? Hard enough that a 3-star general flew in personally to watch. That shuts Vaughn up, but the anger radiating off him doesn't diminish. He's a man whose entire identity is built on physical dominance, and tonight a woman half his size made him look like a fool in front of everyone who matters. Specialist Kieran Blake stands near the window, his lean frame silhouetted against the darkening skyline. 29 years old, sharp-minded, the unit's intelligence specialist. He's been unusually quiet since the mess hall incident, his eyes distant with calculation. She knew things, Kieran says finally. Personal things about all of us. That means she had access to our files before she walked in. So, Vaughn's voice is still hot with humiliation. So this wasn't random. She didn't just show up. She's been planning this, studying us, learning our weaknesses. Declan sits down heavily in his chair. The tremor in his hands is worse now, visible, even in the dim light. His right hand moves unconsciously toward the desk drawer where he keeps a flask. Stops, falls back to his lap. What are you saying, Blake? I'm saying she wanted us to underestimate her. Wanted us to make exactly the mistakes we made. This whole thing, the civilian clothes, the notebook sitting alone in our mess hall, it was bait. And we took it like hungry fish. Private First Class Rowan Hayes speaks up for the first time since entering the office. At 22, he's the youngest in the room, but his tactical mind earned him a seat at this table. What do we actually know about her? Really know. Kieran pulls out his phone, fingers moving rapidly across the screen. I've been looking her up since we left the mess hall. Commander Alara Thorne, 25 years old. Youngest woman to ever command a SEAL team. Graduated top of her class at Annapolis. BUD/S honor graduate. 3 combat tours. Silver Star. 2 Bronze Stars. Purple Heart. Vaughn laughs, but it's hollow, bitter. She's got more decorations than all of us combined. It gets worse. She's trained in escape and evasion at the highest levels, speaks 4 languages, has completed solo infiltration missions that are still classified. Kieran looks up from his phone. Guys, this woman isn't just good. She's legendary. She's also human, Declan says firmly. She bleeds, she gets tired, she makes mistakes. Does she? Rowan's voice is quiet but cuts through. Because from where I'm standing, the only ones making mistakes tonight were us. Declan stands up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Listen to me, all of you. I don't care how many decorations she has. I don't care how many missions she's completed. Tomorrow at 600, she becomes a target. And we are United States Marines. We don't lose to targets. Sarge, with respect. I'm not finished. The steel in Declan's tone makes everyone strow on it. Yes, we screwed up tonight. Badly. We let arrogance blind us and she used it against us. But that ends now. From this moment forward, we treat her like what she is, the most dangerous opponent we've ever faced. Vaughn cracks his knuckles, the sound like small bones breaking. Fine, how do we beat her? We start by not underestimating her again. Blake, I want everything you can find on SEAL evasion tactics. Hayes put together 3-man teams with overlapping patrol patterns. Vaughn, you're on perimeter, and if we spot her, you don't engage alone. Ever. Vaughn's jaw tightens. You think I can't handle? She took down SEAL candidates in training exercises. She's run operations against actual terrorists. You think your size advantage means anything to someone like that? The question hangs in the air. Finally, Vaughn nods. What about the contradictory intel she mentioned? Kieran asks. She said there would be false information mixed in. How do we know what's real? Declan is quiet for a moment. His hand moves toward the drawer again, stops again. We verify everything, no assumptions, no shortcuts. Kieran raises an eyebrow. That's new. Yeah, well, maybe it's time we learn some new tricks. The 0500 briefing comes faster than anyone expects. 42 Marines assemble in the training building, exhaustion mixing with adrenaline. Most haven't slept. The stakes are too high. The humiliation too fresh. Alara walks in exactly on time, still wearing her olive green t-shirt and camouflage pants. Her dark hair is pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her face shows no trace of last night's confrontation. She carries a folder. Good morning, gentlemen. A few mumbled responses scattered in weak. I said good morning. Good morning, ma'am. The response comes as one voice, now sharp and disciplined. Better. She opens the folder. Here are the parameters for your exercise. Your objective is to locate and capture me within 48 hours. The operational area is the entire Camp Lejeune training complex. That's approximately 36 square miles. Someone in the back whistles softly. You will have access to standard patrol equipment. No live ammunition, obviously, but training rounds are authorized. Capture is defined as physical restraint lasting longer than 10 seconds. If you tag me with training rounds, that counts as elimination. If I tag you, you're out of the exercise. What about you, ma'am? Declan asks. What equipment do you have? Alara smiles slightly. The same as you. Training weapons, basic survival gear. Nothing special. And the contradictory intel? Alara pulls 3 sheets from her folder and hands them to Declan. These are intelligence reports from 3 different sources regarding my probable location and tactics. 2 of them are accurate. 1 is completely false. Part of your test is determining which is which. Declan looks at the papers in his hands like they might explode. How are we supposed to know? Verify, cross-reference, use your judgment. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes, or don't, and see what happens. She checks her watch. The exercise begins in exactly 1 hour. I'll have a 5-minute head start. After that, I'm fair game. She turns to leave, then stops. Oh, and gentlemen, in Kandahar, the Marines who provided our intelligence were absolutely certain they were right. They had multiple sources. They had experience. They had confidence. Her voice hardens. They were also wrong, and 3 of my friends died because of it. Don't make the same mistake. She walks out, leaving 42 Marines staring at 3 pieces of paper that might determine their futures. Declan spreads the intelligence reports on a table. His team gathers around. Report A describes Alara heading for the northern woods using dense vegetation as cover for a guerrilla-style evasion pattern. Specific coordinates, movement predictions, detailed terrain analysis. It looks professional, thorough, credible. Report B claims she'll go urban hiding in maintenance buildings and using the base's infrastructure to avoid detection. Moderate detail, reasonable assumptions, standard intelligence language. Report C indicates that she'll stay mobile, never remaining in one location for more than 30 minutes. constantly moving to prevent any pattern from developing. Sparse information, vague predictions, almost too simple. Which one's the lie, Rowan asks. That's the million-dollar question. Kieran studies the reports over Declan's shoulder. The Northern Woods report has the most detail. Specific coordinates, movement predictions. It looks the most professional, which might mean it's the fake. Too much detail could be a red flag. Or it could mean it's the most accurate because they had better surveillance, Vaughn counters. Declan rubs his eyes. He hasn't slept at all, and the familiar craving for a drink gnaws at his insides. His hands shake as he holds the papers. What does your gut tell you, Blake? My gut tells me she's going to do something none of these reports predict. That's not helpful. It's honest. The hour passes like a heartbeat. At exactly 600, a signal flare arcs across the sky, red against the pale dawn. The exercise has officially begun. Alara has already vanished. Declan splits his forces into 3 groups. Vaughn leads 12 Marines north toward the woods. Kieran takes 14 into the urban sector. 16 remain on mobile patrol, ready to respond wherever she appears, if she appears. Vaughn's team moves through the northern forest with weapons ready, spacing themselves 10 meters apart. The woods are quiet, too quiet. Vaughn has been in enough combat zones to know that silence often means danger. Anyone got eyes on anything? Negative. Nothing here. Ghost Town Corporal. Vaughn presses forward, his massive frame moving surprisingly quietly through the underbrush. A branch snaps somewhere to his left. Contact left. Within 12 weapons swing toward the sound. 12 Marines brace for engagement. A deer bursts from the brush and bounds away, white tail flashing. Stand down. Just wildlife. Damn, thought we had her. Stay focused. She's out here somewhere. 2 hours into the exercise, they find the first sign. A piece of olive green fabric caught on a branch, fluttering in the morning breeze. Sarge, we got something. Vaughn examines the fabric. It matches Alara's shirt exactly. She came through here recently. Fabric's still damp from morning dew. Which way? Vaughn studies the ground. There are faint impressions in the soft earth, barely visible but definitely human. Boot treads heading deeper into the forest. North, deeper into the woods, just like the intel said. He radios Declan. Bravo lead, this is Northern Team. We have confirmation. Target heading north through grid reference Charlie 7, pursuing. Copy that, Northern Team. Stay sharp. Don't get tunnel vision. Roger, Bravo lead, Northern Team out. Vaughn waves his team forward. They're closing in. He can feel it. The thrill of the hunt pulses through his veins, familiar and intoxicating. Except they aren't closing in at all. 3 miles away, Alara watches the Northern Team through a pair of binoculars she'd liberated from an unmanned vehicle depot during her preparation week. She's positioned on a rooftop in the maintenance sector, comfortable and visible, completely safe. She'd planted that fabric herself, of course, along with the carefully manufactured boot prints leading deeper into the woods. She'd done it 3 days ago, knowing exactly how Declan would split his forces, knowing exactly which evidence they'd trust. The Northern Intelligence report was the false one, but she'd made sure to provide enough evidence to make it seem accurate. Physical proof trumps analysis every time. By the time Vaughn's team realizes they're chasing ghosts, she'll be long gone. Alara lowers the binoculars and takes a bite of an energy bar. She has a long 48 hours ahead. In the urban sector, Kieran leads his team through the maintenance buildings with methodical precision, checking every corner, every shadow, every possible hiding spot. Nothing. She's not here. She has to be somewhere. Yeah, but not here. This feels wrong. Kieran trusts his instincts. They've kept him alive through 2 deployments, and right now his instincts are screaming that they're wasting time. Pull back, regroup with mobile patrol. But the intel said, the intel might be wrong, we need to think differently. As they withdraw, they pass Building 7. The door is slightly ajar, which is unusual. Kieran signals for his team to hold position and approaches carefully. Inside, he finds an observation post. Someone had moved equipment to create a hidden vantage point overlooking the entire maintenance sector. Fresh water bottles, empty MRE wrappers, a small cushion for sitting during long watches. She was here, Kieran says into his radio. Building 7, but she's gone now. When Carl? Hours ago, maybe. This position is cold. So the urban intel had some accuracy, but the timing was wrong. She'd been there, but she'd left before they arrived, which meant she was always one step ahead. Or she'd known exactly where they would search and had simply moved on. 4 hours in the mobile patrol has covered 12 miles of territory with nothing to show for it. Declan is getting frustrated. They have 42 Marines, the best training the Corps could provide, in a target area they know intimately. And one woman is making them look like amateurs. Anything? Negative, Sarge. Northern team still tracking north. Found more signs. She's moving fast. Blake on urban sectors are clear, starting to think that report was the fake. Declan stares at the map in his hands, the 3 intelligence reports spread before him. 2 accurate, 1 false. What if he'd gotten it backward? All units hold position. I need to think. He spreads the reports on the hood of his Humvee, studies them with fresh eyes, trying to see past his own assumptions. The Northern report. Highly detailed. Specific coordinates, professional formatting. Everything about it screams credible intelligence. The urban report, moderate detail, reasonable assumptions, standard language. The mobile report, sparse information, vague predictions, almost too simple. Too simple. Declan had been trained to respect complexity, to assume that more detail meant more accuracy. But what if Alara had played on that assumption? What if the simplest report was the accurate one? Blake, get back here. I need your analysis. Hippo, 5 minutes later, Kieran is studying the reports with fresh perspective. I think I see it, he says slowly. The Northern report, it's too perfect, too detailed, like someone wanted us to believe it. And the urban report, possible but generic. It could apply to any target in any urban environment. There's nothing specific to Thorn, which leaves mobile, which is exactly what a SEAL would do. Never stay still, never establish a pattern. Keep moving until you find an opportunity. Declan nods slowly, feeling something click into place. She's not hiding. What do you mean? I mean, we've been thinking about this wrong. We're treating her like prey. Someone trying to escape, but she's not trying to escape. Kieran's face goes pale as understanding dawns. She's not running from us. She's hunting us. Exactly. Oh God, call everyone back. Now. The recall order goes out at 10:43 hours, but it's too late for 3 of Vaughn's men. Alara had circled behind the Northern team while they chased phantom footprints. Moving with the silence that had earned her the nickname Ghost during SEAL training, she'd picked off the stragglers one by one. The first Marine doesn't even see her. One moment he's scanning the trees ahead, the next he feels the impact of training rounds against his chest and hears Alara's voice in his ear, soft and almost kind. You're dead. Return to base. The second tries to turn and fire. Alara is faster. 2 rounds before his weapon even comes up. You're dead too. The third, a young corporal named Davis, actually manages to get a shot off. It goes wide, missing Alara by 3 feet as she moves like water between the trees. Better, she says as her return shot tags his shoulder, but not good enough. By the time Vaughn realizes his team is being decimated, he's lost 3 men, and Alara has vanished again, a ghost that was never really there. Contact. We have contact. She's here. But she isn't. Not anymore. Vaughn's radio crackles. Declan's voice tight with urgency. Northern team, what's your status? Down 3, Sarge. She hit us from behind, picked off our tail. Fall back to Rally Point Alpha. Do not pursue. But Sarge, that's an order, Corporal. Fall back now. Vaughn gathers his remaining 9 men and starts moving south, the taste of failure bitter in his mouth. They'd been hunting a ghost, and the ghost had been hunting them. By 1600 hours, Bravo Company has lost 7 Marines to Alara's counterattacks. 7 out of 42 in 10 hours. Declan gathers his remaining forces at the central command post, his face grim. We're doing this wrong. No kidding. Vaughn's voice is bitter. He'd lost 3 of his own men, and his pride is bleeding worse than any wound. She's not evading. She's using our own tactics against us while we spread out looking for her. So what do? Kieran asks. We stop spreading out. We concentrate, make her come to us instead of us going to her. She'll just wait us out. Will she? Rowan speaks up. She has 48 hours to either escape or eliminate us. If she can't find isolated targets, she'll have to take risks. Declan considers this. What about a trap? Explain. We set up a position that looks vulnerable. Small team, obvious location, easy approach. She thinks she's picking off more stragglers, but we have backup hidden and ready to close in. Kieran shakes his head. She'll see through it. She's too experienced. Maybe, maybe not. The key is making it look authentic. Real vulnerability, not staged. How do you fake real vulnerability? Declan's jaw tightens. You don't fake it. You use actual vulnerability. Everyone stares at him. I'll be the bait. Sarge, no. Vaughn steps forward. If she gets you, we lose everything. If we don't do something, we lose anyway. She's picking us apart piece by piece. We need to change the game. There has to be another way. There isn't. Declan looks around at his remaining men. I'm the one she wants. I'm the one who tried to intimidate her. I'm the symbol of everything she's evaluating us for. If anyone can draw her out, it's me. The silence that follows is heavy with unspoken objections. Finally, Kieran nods. If we're doing this, we do it smart. Hidden positions, multiple firing lines. The moment she engages, we collapse on her location. Agreed. And Sarge, Kieran's voice is unusually soft. Don't die. Wasn't planning on it. But before they can execute the plan, something happens that changes everything. At 17:15 hours, as the sun begins its descent, a single gunshot echoes across the compound. Not a training round. The sound is wrong, too sharp, too final. Declan's radio crackles. Bravo lead, this is Perimeter 6. We have a situation. Female Marine Building 3. Urgent medical needed. Declan's blood runs cold. There's only one female Marine in Bravo Company. Bennett, it's Bennett. They find Private First Class Willa Bennett on the roof of the barracks, a service pistol on the ground beside her. Her hands shaking as she stares at the weapon, like she can't believe what she almost did. Alara is already there. The commander sits beside Willa, not touching her, just present. When Declan and the others arrive, Alara holds up one hand. Stop. Give us a minute, Alara says quietly. Declan nods and positions his men at the roof access, giving them space. I couldn't do it, Willa whispers. I picked it up. I put it in my mouth, but I couldn't. Because you're stronger than you think, Alara says. I'm not strong. If I was strong, I would have fought back when Vaughn, her voice breaks. Fighting back isn't the only kind of strength. You filed 7 reports. 7 times you stood up and said this is wrong. That's courage. Nobody listened. I listened. Alara pulls something from her pocket, a small audio recorder. Tomorrow, you're going to wear this, and Vaughn is going to talk to you, and this time everyone will hear what he says. Willa looks at her with red-rimmed eyes. Why are you helping me? Because 8 months ago I couldn't save the people I loved. Lieutenant Garrett Sullivan died in my arms because someone didn't do their job properly. I couldn't save him. Alara's voice cracks. But I can save you. She meets Willa's eyes. You're not alone anymore. Tomorrow we fix this. But tonight you need to promise me you'll be here tomorrow. I don't know if I can. Yes, you can, because you're going to help me change this unit. You're going to help me make sure no other woman has to go through what you went through. But I need you alive to do it. Willa is quiet for a long moment. Then she nods. Okay. Okay. Alara helps her stand and guides her toward Declan. Staff Sergeant Private Bennett is going to the medical center for observation. I'll accompany her. The exercise is suspended for 12 hours. Yes, ma'am. And Alara's voice hardens. We're going to have a very serious conversation tomorrow about the culture in this unit that drove one of your Marines to a rooftop with a loaded weapon. Declan's face is ashen. Yes, ma'am. The next morning, day 2 of the exercise begins not with a hunt, but with a reckoning. Alara calls formation at 700. All 42 Marines, including Willa Bennett, who stands straighter than she has in months. Before we continue this exercise, we address Private Bennett's complaints. Vaughn steps forward. Commander, with respect, this isn't the time. Corporal Ashford, I will tell you when it's time to speak. Right now, it's time to listen. She turns to Willa. Private Bennett, tell them what happened. Willa's voice is small at first, but grows stronger. 3 months ago, Corporal Ashford cornered me in the supply room. He told me I needed to prove I belonged. He touched me without my permission. I reported it to Staff Sergeant Cross. He was drunk. He told me I must have misunderstood. That's a lie, Vaughn says. She's making this up for attention. Private Bennett, Alara says calmly, please play the recording from yesterday. Willa pulls out the audio recorder, presses play. Vaughn's voice clear as daylight. You want respect, Bennett? You're going to have to earn it, and we both know how you can earn it. The silence that follows is crushing. That's not, I didn't mean, Vaughn stammers. 7 reports. Alara says, her voice like ice. 7 times Private Bennett told you something was wrong, and 7 times you dismissed her. Staff Sergeant Cross, you want to know why I'm really here. She looks at Declan. Not just because your intel killed my people, but because the culture that dismissed contradictory intelligence in Kandahar is the same culture that dismissed 7 harassment reports. It's all the same disease. Arrogance. The belief that you know better. The refusal to verify what makes you uncomfortable. She turns to Vaughn. Corporal Ashford, you're confined to quarters pending court-martial proceedings. General Webb will be notified within the hour. You can't do this. I just did. Alara's voice is final. Real leaders protect their people, all of them, not just the ones who look like them. She addresses the formation. This unit has a choice. You can continue being the Marines who let this happen, or you can become the Marines who make sure it never happens again. The rest of day 2 proceeds differently. The exercise continues, but the Marines are different, quieter, more thoughtful. The easy arrogance is gone, replaced by something that looks like shame. By nightfall, Lara has eliminated 4 more Marines, bringing the total to 11 out of 42. But the eliminations feel different now. Each one is a lesson. Each one is delivered with guidance rather than contempt. At 2100 hours, Declan executes his trap plan. He positions himself alone at the communication station, fumbling with a broken radio, making himself vulnerable. 34 Marines hide in surrounding positions, waiting. Alara appears exactly as predicted, emerging from the darkness like smoke. Interesting strategy, Sergeant. Declan spins. How did you tell your hidden team's Blake at position 3? The others at 7 and 9. You need better concealment. Then why haven't you tagged me out? Because elimination isn't my goal, Sergeant. It never was. She steps closer. In the first 10 hours, you split forces on unverified intel. Lost 7 men. Then you adapted, questioned assumptions, came up with new strategies. And tonight you used yourself as bait. And that's leadership, real leadership. Not the kind that dismisses reports because they're inconvenient. Not the kind that protects bullies because they're useful. The kind that puts the mission above ego. Alara pulls out dog tags from her pocket. Garrett Sullivan's name gleams in the moonlight. A sergeant just like you signed off on Kandahar intel. Too confident to verify. Too proud to admit uncertainty. My best friend died because of it. Her voice breaks. When you put yourself at risk tonight, you showed me something. You showed me there's a leader somewhere under the alcoholic, under the enabler, under the man who's been hiding for 2 years. I don't know if that's true. Then make it true. Because the next time you lead men into combat, they'll trust you with their lives. Make sure you deserve that trust. She steps back into the shadows. Exercise continues. 28 hours left, but now you understand what's really at stake. She disappears. Declan stands alone, her words echoing. His hands aren't shaking. The craving for alcohol has faded. For the first time in 2 years, he feels completely painfully sober. And he realizes Alara Thorne didn't come to destroy them. She came to save them. The question is whether they're brave enough to let her. Declan Cross returns to the command post at 21:47 hours with a different look in his eyes. The kind of look that comes from staring into the abyss and finding something worth saving on the other side. Kieran Blake notices immediately. He's sitting at a makeshift desk studying topographical maps that no longer matter. And when Declan walks through the door, Kieran straightens. Sarge, what happened out there? She found me. Vaughn's replacement, Corporal James Hendricks, stands up. Vaughn is confined to quarters awaiting court-martial, and Hendricks has stepped into the enforcer role with considerably less enthusiasm. Why aren't you tagged out? Because she didn't want to tag me. She wanted to talk. The remaining 34 Marines exchange confused glances. They've gathered in the command post exhausted and demoralized, waiting for orders that make sense of a situation that defies all logic. Talk about what? Rowan asks. Declan sits down heavily. For a long moment, he doesn't speak. When he finally does, his voice is different, quieter, stripped of the bravado that's defined him for years. About why she's really here, about what happened in Kandahar, about what we've been doing wrong, not just in this exercise, but in everything. I don't understand. Neither did I, not until tonight. Declan looks at Kieran. Remember what you said earlier, that she wasn't trying to escape, she was trying to eliminate us. Yeah, you were half right. She wasn't trying to eliminate us. She was trying to teach us. Hendricks frowns. Teach us by making us look like idiots. Yes, exactly like that. The edge in Declan's tone makes everyone straighten. Because that's what we've been acting like. Idiots. Arrogant, overconfident idiots who thought we knew everything and didn't need to verify anything. Sarge, I'm not finished. Declan stands, and the transformation in how he carries himself makes everyone pay attention. The old authority is still there, but it's different now. Tempered, earned rather than demanded. 8 months ago, Marines provided intelligence for a SEAL operation in Kandahar. The intel was wrong, catastrophically wrong. 3 SEALs died because Marines like us were too proud to admit uncertainty. The room goes silent. No one moves. No one breathes. She's not here to destroy us. She's here to make sure we never make that mistake. And the only way she could do that was by showing us exactly how wrong we could be. Kieran speaks slowly, carefully. So the exercise is still real. We still have until 600 tomorrow to capture her. Yes. But the point isn't whether we win or lose. The point is whether we learn. Learn what? Hendrix's voice has lost its edge, replaced by something that might be genuine confusion. That assumptions kill. That verification saves lives. That being wrong isn't weakness, but refusing to admit it is. The words hang in the air like smoke after gunfire. Rowan clears his throat. So what do we do now? Declan looks at his watch. 28 hours remaining. 28 hours to prove they're more than the toxic culture that nearly destroyed them. We have an idea. He pulls out the intelligence reports Alara had provided, spreading them across the table like a hand of cards in a game where the stakes are everything. We've been treating these as a puzzle to solve. Which one is real? Which one is fake? But what if that's the wrong approach? What do you mean, Baron? What if all of them contain some truth and some lies? What if the test isn't about picking the right one, but about verifying each piece of information independently? Kieran's eyes widen. Cross-referencing, not choosing between sources, but building a composite picture from verified data points. Exactly. That would take hours. We have hours. What we don't have is room for more mistakes. The work begins immediately. Kieran takes the lead, breaking down each intelligence report into individual claims, location predictions, movement patterns, tactical preferences, equipment assumptions. Each claim is assigned to a team for verification. Not assumption, verification. Northern Woods report says she prefers elevated positions for observation. Can we confirm? Rowan checks his notes from the earlier engagement. The 3 eliminations in the northern sector all came from ground level. She was below our men, not above them. That claim is false. Mark it. What about the urban report's claim that she'll use infrastructure for concealment? Kieran pulls up something on his tablet. The maintenance buildings were clear when we searched initially, but wait. His fingers move rapidly across the screen. We found signs of recent access in Building 7. Someone had moved equipment to create a hidden observation point. So she was there but left before we arrived. Which means the urban intel had some accuracy, but the timing was wrong. Mark it. Keep going. By 0200 hours, they've verified or debunked 63 individual data points. A pattern emerges clear as daylight, but invisible until now. Alara isn't following any single intelligence profile. She's combining elements from all 3, creating an unpredictable, hybrid approach that would be impossible to anticipate using traditional analysis. She's not using any playbook. Kieran says something like admiration in his voice. She's writing her own. Then we need to write ours. Declan studies the verified data spread before them. She prefers ground-level approaches. She uses infrastructure when available but doesn't rely on it. She stays mobile but returns to areas she's already cleared because she knows we won't search them twice. That's a pattern. It's better than a pattern. It's a vulnerability. Hendrix leans forward, interested despite himself. What do you mean? She returns to cleared areas, which means if we clear an area and then secretly leave a team behind, we catch her coming back. Exactly. But Rowan, who's been listening quietly from the corner, speaks up. Sarge, permission to speak. Go ahead. If we're really trying to learn from this, maybe we shouldn't be trying to catch her at all. Everyone turns to look at him. What are you talking about? Hendrix's voice is hostile. That's the whole point of the exercise. Is it? Rowan stands his ground despite the intimidating stares. Commander Thorne said the test isn't about winning or losing, it's about learning. What if the best way to pass isn't to capture her, but to show her we've actually changed? And how do you propose we do that? Rowan takes a deep breath. We ask her for help. The silence that follows is deafening. Hendrix laughs sharp and bitter. You want us to surrender, to admit we can't beat her. I want us to admit we have more to learn than we can figure out in 8 hours. That's not surrender. That's intelligence. It's weakness. No. Odu, Declan's voice cuts through the argument. It's exactly what she's been testing us for. Everyone stares at him. Think about it. The whole exercise has been about whether we can put aside our arrogance and admit when we're wrong. Hayes is right. Trying to capture her through tactics we've already proven are inadequate. That's not strength. That's stubbornness. So what, we just give up? We don't give up. We change the game. Declan looks at Rowan with new respect. How do you suggest we contact her? Rowan almost smiles. She's been watching us all night. She knows where we are. If we want to talk, we just need to make it clear we're not a threat. And how do we do that? We stop acting like hunters and start acting like students. At 0300 hours, Declan makes a decision that will define the rest of his career. He orders all remaining Marines to converge on the central command post. No hidden positions, no ambush teams. No tactical advantage whatsoever. 34 Marines standing in the open, weapons holstered under the harsh glow of portable lights. Vulnerable. Honest. She's going to think it's another trap, Hendricks mutters. Maybe. But if she's as smart as we think she is, she'll know a trap wouldn't look this obvious. They wait. 315. The night is cold. Someone coughs. Someone else shifts their weight boots, scuffing against gravel. 316. A Marine checks his watch, whispers to the man next to him. 317. Nothing moves in the darkness beyond their circle of light. 318. Alara emerges from the shadows like she'd materialized from the darkness itself. She stops 20 feet away, her expression unreadable. The portable lights cast her shadow long behind her. Interesting formation, Sergeant. We're not hunting anymore, Commander. I can see that. Her eyes sweep the assembled Marines, cataloging everything. Why by Wayne? Declan steps forward away from his men, putting himself in the most vulnerable position possible. Because we finally understand what you've been trying to teach us. And what's that? That victory means nothing if you don't learn anything. That admitting weakness takes more courage than pretending strength. That the mission is never more important than the people who carry it out. Alara studies him for a long moment. That's quite a revelation for one night. It's been quite a night. She glances at the Marines behind him. 34 men standing at attention, weapons, holstered, egos suppressed. Not surrendering, but choosing to learn. Who suggested this approach? Declan nods toward Rowan. Private Hayes. First deployment, 4 months in the unit. The one who spoke up in the mess hall. The same. Alara walks toward Rowan. The young Marine stands his ground, but she can see the nervousness in his eyes, the way his hands clench and unclench at his sides. Private Hayes, what made you think this would work? Honestly, ma'am, I wasn't sure it would, but trying the same thing over and over wasn't working. And my drill instructor always said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Smart drill instructor. He was a SEAL, ma'am, retired, said the best operators aren't the strongest or the fastest. They're the ones who know when to fight and when to think. Alara's expression softens almost imperceptibly. He taught you well. She turns back to Declan. Staff Sergeant, in the last 24 hours, your unit has demonstrated almost every failure mode I've ever encountered in military culture. Arrogance, assumption, aggression without purpose. Tactical rigidity in the face of adaptive opposition. Declan nods. Yes, ma'am. But in the last 3 hours, something changed. You started verifying instead of assuming. You started collaborating instead of competing. And ultimately, you made the hardest decision any commander can make. You admitted you couldn't solve the problem alone. We learned from our mistakes, ma'am. Some of you did. Alara's gaze sweeps the assembled Marines. The question is whether that learning is real or whether it will evaporate the moment I leave. It won't. How can you be certain? Declan is quiet for a moment. When he speaks, his voice is raw with honesty. Because I haven't had a drink in 120 hours, and for the first time in 2 years, I don't want one. The confession hangs in the air. Hendricks shifts uncomfortably. Kieran looks away. The rest of the unit stands frozen, processing what their sergeant just revealed. I've been hiding, Declan continues, hiding behind aggression, hiding behind bravado, hiding behind the bottle because it was easier than admitting that I peaked years ago and have been coasting ever since. He meets Alara's eyes directly. You scared the hell out of me, Commander. Not because you're dangerous, though you are, but because you showed me exactly what I'd become, and I didn't like what I saw. Alara doesn't respond immediately. When she does, her voice carries a weight that makes everyone listen. Sergeant Cross, 8 months ago, I knelt beside my best friend's body in a doorway in Kandahar. His blood soaked through my gloves. His eyes were open, and I had to close them. And all I could think was that he'd trusted me to keep him safe, and I'd failed. Her voice cracks slightly, then steadies. The failure wasn't mine. It was the intelligence. But that didn't matter. 3 of my people died, and I had to carry that weight. I had to knock on doors and tell families that their loved ones weren't coming home. I had to write letters that couldn't possibly explain why good people died for bad information. She looks at Declan. You want to know why I'm here? Why I designed this exercise? Why I let you humiliate yourself before revealing who I was? Yes, ma'am. I came here because 3 of my people died from a culture of arrogance. I needed to know if that culture could be transformed or if it was too deeply rooted to save. Her eyes sweep the Marines again. The answer I've seen tonight gives me hope. But hope isn't enough. Hope doesn't prevent the next Kandahar. Only action does. What kind of action? Ilara reaches into her pocket and pulls out a folded piece of paper. These are my preliminary findings for General Webb. Based on the first 24 hours, I was prepared to recommend dissolution of Bravo Company. Declan's face goes pale. But based on the last 3 hours, I'm modifying that recommendation. Conditional survival, pending intensive retraining, and cultural rehabilitation. You're giving us a chance. I'm giving you an opportunity to earn a chance. There's a difference, Obrika. Ilara unfolds the paper. The exercise ends in 2 hours. Technically, you haven't captured me. Technically, you've lost. She tears the paper in half. The sound is sharp in the quiet night. But I'm not interested in technicalities. I'm interested in whether this unit can become what the Marine Corps needs it to be. Humble, adaptive, willing to admit weakness and learn from failure. She drops the torn pieces. They flutter to the ground like wounded birds. Tomorrow at 0800, we begin a new kind of training. Not Marines trying to capture a SEAL. Marines and SEALs learning from each other. Partners instead of adversaries. Ma'am, with respect. Hendricks steps forward, his voice uncertain. What Ashford did to you, what he did to Bennett, I knew about it. I saw it happening and I said nothing. Why would you want to help people like us? Ilara turns to face him directly. Because punishment doesn't change culture, Corporal. Education does. You said nothing because you were taught that loyalty to your fellow Marines meant protecting them even when they're wrong. That silence in the face of injustice is somehow honorable. She pauses. I could destroy all your careers with one report. I could make examples of every one of you, but that would only prove I'm as small as you thought I was, and I'm not. The authority in her voice is absolute. I'm a commander. My job isn't to punish people who fail. It's to develop people who can succeed, even the ones who start by watching their brothers assault women and saying nothing. Hendricks' eyes glisten. We don't deserve that, ma'am. No, you don't. Not yet, but you can earn it. Ilara steps back, addressing the entire unit. All of you can earn it starting tomorrow, starting with the willingness to admit that everything you thought you knew might be wrong. And if we fail again, then you fail again. And you learn from that failure too. The only unforgivable failure is the refusal to keep trying. The eastern sky is beginning to lighten, dawn approaching. The exercise officially ending in 90 minutes, though. Everyone knows the real test is just beginning. Declan looks at his men, at the transformation that's begun in the last few hours, at the long road still ahead. Commander Thorne. Yes, Sergeant. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The hard part hasn't even started. I know. That's what I'm thanking you for. The chance to do the hard part. Ilara nods slowly. 0800, training compound. Don't be late. She turns and walks into the dawn, her dark hair catching the first rays of sunlight. The 34 Marines watch her go, each processing what just happened in their own way. Rowan speaks quietly. That's what a real leader looks like. No one disagrees. At 0600 hours, General Malcolm Webb arrives to officially end the exercise. He finds 42 Marines standing in formation, not with the defeated posture of losers, but with the focused intensity of men who've discovered something important. Commander Thorne briefed me on the night's events. Webb says, his voice carrying across the formation. Unconventional ending. Yes, sir. Declan's voice is steady. She says you learned something. We're beginning to learn, sir. We have a long way to go. That's more self-awareness than I've seen from this unit in 3 years. Webb's expression is unreadable. She's recommended continued operation with intensive retraining. I've approved it. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. Thank her, and then spend every day proving she made the right call. We will, sir. Webb studies the formation for a long moment. Dismissed. Rest for 2 hours. Training begins at 0800. The Marines disperse, but the energy is different now. No swagger, no arrogance, just purpose. At 0755, the training compound is full. 42 Marines in formation, fresh uniforms, alert expressions. Ready. Ilara arrives exactly on time, wearing her Navy uniform for the first time since the mess hall. Her commander's insignia gleams on her collar. She's not hiding anymore, and neither are they. Good morning, Bravo Company. Good morning, Commander. Yesterday you were hunting me. Today we learned together. Different dynamic, different rules, different expectations. She walks along the formation, making eye contact with each Marine. Over the next 5 days, we will break down everything you think you know about tactics, leadership, and collaboration. We will rebuild it from the ground up using principles that have kept my SEALs alive through situations that would have killed lesser operators. She stops in front of Declan. This will be painful physically and emotionally. You will fail repeatedly. You will doubt yourselves. You will want to quit. We won't quit, ma'am. Good, because quitting is the only failure I won't forgive. The next 5 days blur together in a crucible of transformation. Day 1. 20 tactical scenarios, each containing hidden assumptions that lead to mission failure if not identified. It takes them 3 hours to complete the first 6. 3 hours of arguments, mistakes, frustration. 3 hours of learning that everything they thought they knew is built on foundations of sand. Elara reviews their work in silence. Scenario 3. You identified the assumption about enemy positions, but missed the assumption about civilian presence. In real operations, that oversight kills innocence. Day 2. Close quarters, combat. Elara demonstrates techniques that make traditional Marine training look primitive. Joint locks, pressure points, methods of neutralization that require precision rather than brute force. Hendricks volunteers for the first demonstration. Elara throws him 14 times before he finally manages to last more than 3 seconds. On the 15th attempt, he pauses before attacking. What are you waiting for? Trying to think, ma'am. Good, that's progress. Day 3. Joint operations with SEAL Team 4. The first attempt is a disaster. Marines and SEALs can't coordinate. Different communication styles, different tactical approaches, different assumptions about roles and responsibilities. 17 minutes. 8 simulated casualties. Complete mission failure. The fourth attempt succeeds. 6 minutes. 0 casualties. Perfect coordination between 2 units that were strangers 72 hours ago. Day 4. Elara shows them photographs. Lieutenant Garrett Sullivan holding his daughter Sophie, blonde pigtails and gap-toothed grin. Petty Officer Owen Briggs with the engagement ring he never got to give. Petty Officer Nora Quinn's mother, gray-haired and waiting for money that will never come. When you make assumptions that kill people, you don't kill statistics. You kill human beings with leaves and loves and people who miss them. Her voice breaks. I think about them every day. Every single day, and I ask myself what I could have done differently. She looks at Declan. The Marines who provided the intelligence that got them killed, they'll never know their names. They'll never see these photographs. They'll never understand the weight of what their assumptions cost. She pauses. I want you to understand. I want you to carry this weight, because that's the only way to ensure you never contribute to it. Hendricks stands. Ma'am, I watched Ashford harass Bennett for 3 months. I said nothing. I didn't see her as a person. I saw her as someone else's problem. His voice is rough with emotion. And now I see you as someone who lost people she loved. Someone who carries weight I can't imagine. Someone who chose to teach us instead of destroy us even though we didn't deserve it. He meets her eyes. That's leadership I've never seen before, and I want to learn it. Elara studies him for a long moment. That honesty is worth more than any apology, Corporal. Hold on to it. Day 5, the final evaluation, a complex multi-phase operation requiring everything they've learned. Assumption management, joint coordination, leadership under pressure. They fail the first attempt, and the second, and the third, but each failure is different. They're failing while trying new things, failing while collaborating, failing while questioning assumptions, failing forward. The 6th attempt succeeds. 23 minutes, 0 casualties, all objectives achieved. When it's over, the Marines and SEALs stand together in silence, processing what they've accomplished. At 1600 hours, General Webb arrives for the final assessment. He reviews Elara's documentation without speaking, his face revealing nothing. Finally, he looks up. Commander Thorne, your recommendation. Conditional approval for continued operations, sir. Subject to quarterly reviews and ongoing integration training with SEAL units. You believe this unit can sustain these changes? I believe they've demonstrated the capacity for change, sir. Sustainability will require continued effort and accountability. Webb turns to Declan. Staff Sergeant, what do you have to say? Declan steps forward. His posture is different now. Confident but not arrogant. Strong but not rigid. General, 5 days ago, I was the primary reason this unit was failing. My leadership created a culture of intimidation instead of collaboration. My drinking compromised my judgment. My refusal to listen to harassment complaints endangered one of my Marines. That's quite an admission. It's the truth, sir. And acknowledging truth is the first step toward fixing it. Webb studies him. Commander Thorne told me about your decision during the exercise, using yourself as bait. That took courage. It took desperation, sir, but sometimes desperation leads to wisdom. Webb almost smiles. Indeed it does. He addresses the entire unit. Bravo Company, you've been given an opportunity most failing units never receive. A chance to transform instead of dissolve. I strongly suggest you make the most of it. Yes, sir. Dismissed. 3 Marines remain behind. Declan Rowan and Willa Bennett approach Alara together. Commander, Declan says, we wanted to present you with something. He holds out a shadow box containing a Marine Corps emblem and a folded flag. This flag flew over our compound during the entire training period. We want you to have it as a symbol of our commitment to the lessons you taught us. Alara accepts the box, her hands trembling slightly. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, ma'am. Just know that we'll honor this training every day. Rowan steps forward. Ma'am, I've been accepted into officer candidate school. My application cited the lessons from this training as my primary motivation. Alara looks at him with surprise. Hayes, that's wonderful. It wouldn't have happened without you, ma'am. You showed me that speaking up isn't insubordination. It's leadership. Willa speaks last, her voice steady and clear. Ma'am, I'm transferring to the Judge Advocate General's Corps, investigator training, so other women don't have to go through what I did. Alara's eyes brighten. Bennett, that's exactly the kind of change this Corps needs. You saved my life that night on the barracks roof, ma'am. I want to spend my career doing the same for others. You already have more courage than most officers I know. They're lucky to have you. By the time they're finished, Alara is struggling to maintain her composure. I came here to evaluate you, she finally says, to determine if you were worth saving. But somewhere along the way, you saved something in me too. She looks at the shadow box in her hands. For 8 months, I carried the weight of Kandahar alone. The guilt, the anger, the grief. I thought the only way to honor my friends was to destroy the culture that killed them. Her voice cracks. But you showed me a different way. You showed me that culture can change, that arrogance can become humility, that enemies can become allies. She meets Declan's eyes. You're not the same men who stood in that mess hall 8 days ago, and I'm not the same commander who walked in without rank insignia. We've all been transformed. 6 months pass like a held breath. Alara is in her office at Naval Base Coronado when her phone rings. The number is unfamiliar, but the area code is North Carolina. Commander Thorne. Commander, this is Staff Sergeant Cross. Her heart rate spikes. Sergeant, how's Bravo Company? We're deployed, ma'am, Syria. Just completed a joint operation with SEAL Team 4. Status, that's why I'm calling, ma'am. There's a pause. We had a situation last night. Intelligence suggested a clean extraction. Minimal resistance. Alara's blood runs cold. She knows these words. She's heard them before. Sound familiar? Declan's voice is steady. Cross, what happened? The intel was wrong, ma'am. We hit the compound and found 3 times the expected resistance. Ambush set up just like Kandahar. Her legs nearly give out. Casualties. There's a long pause. Then 0, ma'am, 0 casualties. Alara sinks into her chair, her hand pressed against her chest, where her heart is trying to break through her ribs. How, because we verified. Because we questioned the intel before we moved. Because Blake found contradictory information from a local source that our analysts had dismissed as unreliable. Declan's voice is thick with emotion. We stopped the mission, ma'am. Verified the contradictory intel. Discovered the ambush before we walked into it. Then we adjusted our approach and completed the extraction with 0 casualties. You stopped the mission. Yes, ma'am, because you taught us that being wrong isn't weakness. Not checking is. Lara can't speak. Tears stream down her face as she holds the phone with both hands. Commander, I just wanted you to know. Your training saved 23 lives last night. Marines and SEALs, the same people who would have died if we'd operated like we used to. Thank you for telling me. There's one more thing, ma'am. His voice breaks slightly. After the operation, I gathered the unit, showed them Lieutenant Sullivan's photograph, told them what happened in Kandahar, explained that the reason they were alive was because we learned from his death. He pauses. 23 warriors went home to their families because of Garrett Sullivan, because of what his sacrifice taught us. I thought you should know. Alara is crying openly now. Thank you, Cross. Thank you for calling. Thank you for learning. Thank you for proving that his death wasn't meaningless. It was never meaningless, ma'am. It just took us a while to understand why. That evening, Alara sits alone in her quarters holding Garrett's dog tags. She pulls out her phone and dials a number she's called every month for 8 months. Hello? A woman's voice, tired but kind. Sarah, it's Alara. Alara, Sophie, come here, sweetie. It's Aunt Alara. A child's voice, bright and innocent. Hi, Aunt Lara, guess what? I lost my front tooth. Alara closes her eyes, tears streaming down her face. That's wonderful, Sophie. Your dad would be so proud. Mommy says Daddy's a hero. Is that true? Yes, sweetheart, the biggest hero I ever knew. And you know what? This week, Daddy saved 23 people. Really, how? Because people learned from him. They learned to be careful, to check things twice, to keep each other safe, just like he always did. There's a pause. Then Sophie's voice, small but certain. Then Daddy's still helping people. Yes, baby, he always will be. After they hang up, Alara whispers to the dog tags, rest easy, Gar. Sophie knows you're still fighting, and so do I. 1 year later, the Marine Corps officially adopts the Thorn Protocol as standard training at all major bases. Every Marine who completes the training learns 3 names: Lieutenant Garrett Sullivan, Petty Officer Owen Briggs, Petty Officer Nora Quinn. Every Marine understands why verification matters more than confidence. Every Marine carries the weight of Kandahar as a reminder of what arrogance costs. At General Webb's retirement ceremony, Alara stands before a crowd of military leaders, politicians, and press wearing her dress blues with commander's insignia gleaming. General Webb asked me to talk about leadership, she begins, about what makes great warriors. She pauses. I used to think I knew the answer. Strength, skill, courage, the qualities we see on recruiting posters. She shakes her head. I was wrong. The truly great warriors aren't defined by what they can do. They're defined by what they're willing to learn. Her voice strengthens. General Webb spent 40 years learning from victories and defeats, learning from friends and enemies. He never stopped questioning, never stopped growing. She meets his eyes. That humility made him the finest leader I've ever served with. She holds up the photograph she still carries. These 3 warriors died because people were too confident to verify their assumptions. Their sacrifice taught me that humility isn't weakness, it's survival. She sets the photograph on the podium. Lieutenant Garrett Sullivan, Petty Officer Owen Briggs, Petty Officer Nora Quinn. They're the reason the Thorn Protocol exists. The reason 42 Marines transformed from a liability into one of the finest units in the Corps. Her voice cracks. They didn't die in vain. They died so others could live. And as long as their lessons are taught, they will never truly be gone. She salutes Webb. To the finest warriors past and present, may their legacy guide us all. The crowd rises in standing ovation. 3 years later, Alara receives new orders. Another base, another toxic unit, another chance to transform destruction into creation. She walks into a mess hall without rank insignia, wearing civilian clothes, carrying a notebook. A young corporal approaches her. Excuse me, ma'am, this mess hall is for Marines only. Alara smiles. I know, I'm just observing. Observing what? Everything. The corporal frowns. You're going to need to leave. I'll leave when I'm finished. The weight of authority in her voice makes him hesitate. Who are you? Alara's smile widens. Someone who's going to change your life. You just don't know it yet. She sits down at a corner table and opens her notebook. The cycle continues, not because the military is broken, but because excellence requires constant vigilance, constant teaching, constant transformation. Commander Alara Thorn learned that lesson in a blood-soaked doorway in Kandahar. Now she spends her career ensuring that lesson lives on, one transformed unit at a time, one saved life at a time, one legacy at a time. Because the best leaders don't just win battles. They create more leaders. They turn failure into wisdom, arrogance into humility, enemies into allies. That's the truth Alara discovered in a mess hall where a Marine grabbed her hair. That's the legacy she carries forward. And that's the gift she gives to every warrior who comes after her. The gift of transformation, the gift of humility, the gift of learning.